we're going to be looking at all of chapter 5. And I want to really see the thread that kind of goes through the whole chapter. I'd call it today the way of seeing beyond. In every single one of the encounters that we have in this chapter with Jesus, we see that there are a number of ways of seeing the world around us. You see different ways of perceiving and different ways of seeing from the Pharisees, from the people who are having the encounter with Christ, and then from Christ himself. In Greek, in Latin, and in Sanskrit, the word for seeing, in Greek it's eido, and it's related to the Latin word video, and in Sanskrit it's vid or veda. This kind of seeing is completely related in all three languages to knowing. In fact, the words are interchanged, and you can kind of see where that comes to play. Whereas when we see something with our physical eyes, then we can also see how we can use that word for perceiving and understand with our mind's eye, our mental understanding, and from that comes knowledge. The key here is that we see that the Lord himself sees the fullness of the truth of every situation. Everything is based on what he sees. It's not a matter of opinion. There's an actual sense of being that comes from how God sees, or the truth of what God sees in a situation. In fact, I believe that the majority of our misery and our challenges in life is that we are perceiving and seeing the world not as it truly is, not as the Lord sees it, with love, with goodness, with self-emptying and self-forgetting and self-denying love. In every one of the situations, so whether it's the choosing of the disciples, or whether it's the healing of the paralytic, or when his disciples are accused of eating unlawfully in the fields, or whether when he invites Levi and then has a banquet with him, in each and every one of those situations, the Lord shows that he sees the world differently than what we typically perceive. And his vision is the truth. His way is the truth. He sees beyond the physical manifestations. It got me really thinking about, why do we see things the way we do? I think it all goes back to the Garden of Eden. So we as humans were in perfect harmony with God, with each other, and with nature. And we saw things as they were, with a simple, single-minded beauty. And then Satan, through the serpent, comes and offers us the knowledge of good and evil. And see, this knowledge of good and evil, this knowing, is related to how we see things. Satan was offering us to know good and evil and to perceive good and evil. In fact, the moment we ate of that fruit, the moment we decided not to just see things as the Lord sees, with simplicity and love, when we decided to see things for ourselves and start measuring and testing and knowing what is good and evil, we became blind. We became judges. We became people who were critical and wanted to perceive and make decisions on our own. We lost our primordial innocence. We lost the innocence of childhood. When Christ came as the way, he came and taught in so many ways that our eyes need to be healed, that we need to perceive as he perceives. In one way, he invites us to return, to become like innocent children, and to see the world with that simple innocence. In another way, he tells us that those whose eyes are good and simple and have that single-minded pursuit of the kingdom, then everything is good. Their whole body will be full of light. If your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. So he's saying that simple, childlike, innocent way of perceiving the world. And then in another way, he says the opposite, when he says that, when you judge, you become blind. And he says that Those who judge are like people walking around with planks of wood in their eyes. Judgment and having a critical eye makes us actually blind to the truth and how God sees the world, and how we are actually surrounded by beauty, and how we are to perceive the world around us like innocent children. We can truly pray and ask God to give us His vision, His eyes to see as He sees. When He saw, Peter and John laboring all night in the beginning of Luke chapter 5, He did not see that, I shouldn't ask them, I shouldn't push them. No, He saw that they would, be obedient, that they were the kinds of people that He could have as disciples. And He tells them to cast out into the deep, and they go and they cast out into the deep. When He saw the leper, he didn't shy away, or He wasn't afraid of touching him and reaching out to him. He saw in him someone who can be fully restored. When He saw the paralytic, He saw someone that all that they needed was the healing of their spiritual illness. And so He forgave the paralytic his sins. He saw the faith of his friends. When He saw a tax collector by the gate, He didn't see some sinful person. What He saw was a disciple. And we need to trust in that beautiful vision of how God sees you and me. Sometimes we, in our own blindness, in our own critical way of thinking, we've, imposed on God feelings and thoughts and a way of perceiving. We actually think that He sees and looks on us with either anger or vengeance or some sort of weird sense of guilt that we have because of our sinful nature. But if we were to know and to see the character, the way of Christ, the way He sees and looks upon us with love, with mercy, with compassion, with self-emptying, self-forgetting, self-denying love, then we would in turn be healed. We'd be invited to have that same vision, that same life that He has, and that we would perceive the world around us with that same innocence, that same simplicity, that same love that He has. Today we pray that our eyes would be healed, that our eyes would be open to the truth, that we would be delivered from this desire for the knowledge of good and evil, where we build walls and we build boxes and we put people in categories instead of loving them, instead of opening ourselves up to the one common human nature that we share. And I think that our joy would be so much fuller if we saw each other as brothers and sisters. And so may today be a day where we ask specifically for the eyes and the vision of God, that we would come to see and come to know people and the world around us in truth, so that we may return to that original innocence, that harmony we had in the garden with God, and to see things as they really are, with the filter or the truth of God's love. I believe that we can pray a very simple and short prayer and ask the Lord, open our eyes to see as You see, and fill our hearts with love for every single created thing on this earth. Have a beautiful day.